Oh, wait. Menuing in Japanese is difficult. Okay, countdown. 3, 2, 1, go. Let's go. So in this category, I will be taking Erica's route. Around a third of the way through the game, I can choose to go with one of the two main characters, Erica, the female protagonist, or her twin sister, Ephraim, the male protagonist. And the route that I pick heavily changes the early game route anyways, even before I pick the route itself, which is why the donation bit war has to be cut off very early.
So you do realize that you just called Ephraim Erica's sister, right?
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh well.
Anyway, this game, like you said, it has the two different stories, and then they converge for the last bit. What this means is that he has to plan his route based on which one he's going to be picking. He can't wait until the last second just to pick because things change, and you need to set up for what each character's story has.
Yeah, so this chapter you see here, which is chapter 1, is the last chapter that's exactly the same between the two routes. After this, everything will be very different.
So you just saw him moving the cursor around in kind of a weird way there. That's because the random number generator in this game is deterministic. You can consistently and reliably manipulate the outcomes you're going to get. Moving the cursor in such a way that the game has to map a new path burns a certain number of random numbers in a list that is populated in the same way every time. So you can burn a certain number with certain cursor movement and then get the outcome you want.
And the rest of this run is very, very heavily dependent on this RNG manipulation.
Mm-hmm. And you'd think, why is this interesting? You know exactly what's going to happen. Well, things happen, and it's not always what you intend. The random numbers may be set up, but you have to execute, you have to menu very fast, and there's a lot of interesting things that happen just to get from point A to point B. Because, yeah, you can have the random numbers be in your favor all the time, but that doesn't mean it's fast.
Mm-hmm. There kind of is a limit of how much you can manipulate. Like, you can't just manipulate like a critical hit on everything to save time. That's just unrealistic. And there are some, you just can't like go for a perfect level up every time. Which, by the way, we haven't really talked too much about how characters grow with level ups. But every character has a set growth rate per stat, and that growth rate is that character's chance to gain a point in that stat when they level up. So we have here the paladin named Seth. Could you explain who Seth is for me?
OP.
OP.
So Seth is the kind of head retainer knight of the royal family. So he's protecting Erica right now. And in Fire Emblem games, there's kind of a tradition of a really strong early unit that doesn't necessarily grow all that well. Not only does he grow well, but, well, he's already very strong, and we're manipulating things so we can get him the levels he wants. That means he is just going to be an absolute beast. In addition to the fact that he's very powerful in combat, he has good movement because of his horse. And javelins are his weapon of choice. They are 1 to 2 range. That is the key thing there, because if you are attacked by an enemy from 2 range, and you only have a weapon that hits 1 range, you won't counterattack. Javelins being 1 to 2 can hit either the square next to the character or 2 squares away.
The downside of javelins is that they're pretty inaccurate and also one of the weakest weapons. But Seth is so strong that it usually doesn't matter in a lot of cases.
And also, you see that little Pegasus there. That is Vanessa. She is also a very important unit. Now, horses don't really fly normally. So the ability to fly and just move over terrain and obstacles without a care is very important to your ability to move around the map. She doesn't have a very high strength growth, but that hardly matters. It just means sometimes you have to manipulate a few more random numbers than you would and take a little bit more time to get her good level ups. But she is going to be another one of the main combat units in this run.
Yeah, so Vanessa starts very underleveled, and she starts pretty weak, although pretty fast as well. And given that having two really overpowered units, one being a flyer, one being Seth, really makes the game a lot easier. So my goal is to feed Vanessa as much experience as I can without losing much time. And there's gonna be a point later in the run where I want Vanessa to be at level 10 with good stats, so I can promote her, which is a mechanic in most Fire Emblem games where you promote a character from tier 1 to tier 2. That is strength, speed, defense, by the way.
Yeah, so those stats, basically, just a quick rundown. You have your health, hit points. That's exactly what you think it is. You have your strength, which is what plays into the ability to deal damage, or for magical characters, magic. You have skill, which affects, among other things, your ability to hit and crit. And you have speed, which is your ability to either double attack or not get double attacked by other in combat, basically. And then there are the defenses. There's strength and defense and resistance. Defense is physical, and resistance is magical. And finally, there is luck, which is the last point Seth gained on that level that he just got. Luck factors into most equations, but is not weighted as heavily as the primary stat for that equation.
So generally speaking on level ups, we want to look for strength is by far the most important stat. You need strength to do damage. No amount of RNG manipulation can prevent you from doing 0 damage. And speed is also very important, although it's actually not as important as you'd think in a manipulator run for Sacred Stones, because Vanessa and Seth are already really fast for the most part. Although you still want speed, it's just not as important as skill, actually. Skill is a stat that's really important for a manipulated run, because every 2 points of skill gives you 1 point of crit. And you can't manipulate a crit if you don't have crit, which is really important for some cases. So that is HP, strength, skill, and defense.
And if you're wondering, wait, isn't this a game about like military conflict? Why are there zombies, weird eyeball monsters, and skeletons? Well, that's part of the plot of this game. Basically, there's this seal with monsters, and it's kind of being degraded and broken down, and you have to stop that from happening. You know, you gotta respect the lore.
Yeah, so we haven't talked about chapter goals, but there's multiple different chapter goals. For this current chapter, okay, good. For this current chapter, it is a route chapter, which is the general term for a chapter where you're required to defeat every enemy unit on a map. These tend to be the longest chapters in the run, but also usually sometimes the most interesting, because it requires you to spread out your units to efficiently take out a lot of units across the map. Because one of Seth's main weaknesses is that there's only one of him. So, same with Vanessa. There's only one of her. So, you have this axe user named Garcia. He's actually a pretty decent unit, pretty solid base stats for the early game. So he's actually strong enough to 2-hit KO all these skeletons here.
Yeah, basically the way to think about it is skeletons are the most similar to your basic human enemies of any of the undead. The zombie types have tons of hit points, but not really any defense. And the eyeball ones are just, they move around, they have a lot of speed.
Well, no,
and a magic attack.
They're flyers and use magic, but they're not fast. Which is why Seth using javelins is important, because that lets him counterattack all the eyeballs.
Because their magic has 1 to 2 range.
So we don't care about Garcia's level up. He's only a short-term unit. We only really care about level ups for Seth and Vanessa for the most part, because those are the 2 long-term units we want to use. Level ups on other characters usually don't matter.
And you can see that village there. Not all of the villages have things that are important to the run, but there are a few that do.
Yeah, visiting that village recruits loot, but a lot of casual players don't know that loot joins you anyways at the end of this chapter, as long as Arthur's alive. So
sometimes it just takes a village.
Alright, so this boss is a defeat boss. This chapter is a defeat boss chapter. And I don't turn on animations usually, but I think we're going to have some animations for this because, you know, we're in a marathon, and most people agree that the GB Fire Emblem animations are the best in the series. So this strat right here is a strat originated from Rudath. He is a Fire Emblem TASer and also does some LTCs, which is a challenge, abbreviation for a challenge of doing a low turn count. This strat here is courtesy to him, where basically I have Garcia carrying Seth. He's giving Seth to Vanessa here. And now Vanessa is able to drop Seth across the village and then be in range of the boss for next turn. So I can kill the boss on turn 3. Meanwhile, I'm putting Vanessa kind of in danger here to feed her more experience. But we're going to watch some animations. I think we're good with that. So, 8% crit. Seems good. If you're a Vanessa fan, you're going to love this run, by the way. You are really going to love this run. And that is a very good level up. The left stats are the stats you want to look for. They're HP, strength, skill, and speed, which, as we mentioned before, strength, skill, and speed are the 3 sets that are the most important. Fun fact, I found this RNG seed completely by accident because when I was routing this on an emulator, I accidentally killed an extra unit with Garcia, which you saw me do earlier, and then I ended turn, and I thought I made a mistake, and then this all happened, and I'm like, wow, what are the chances of this? Wow. It's funny how the RNG just lines up perfectly like that.
So Vanessa just gained a weapon rank there. That's key for a couple units particularly. It'll come up more later, but weapon experience just...
Bye, Joshua.
Rip.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joshua tries to get a 30% crit on Vanessa with the 50 hit, but Vanessa just gets a 3% crit on him back. That's how you properly crit.
She shows him how it's done. But weapon rank allows you to use more advanced weapons and also has a few other bonuses
Ow.
that don't really come into play until later. As you can see, that weapon is dealing a lot of damage to Vanessa, and that brings into play another mechanic for this game and the Fire Emblem series pretty much as a whole, and that is weapons are sometimes effective against other units more than some units more than others. So that bow has a damage number, its might. That number is tripled against flying units. So not the wielder's strength, just the weapon's might is tripled. And there are some other weapons that are really powerful later in the game that only get doubled, but we won't see those until a good 45 minutes in.
All right, so this is what we call a Gaiden chapter. Gaiden is kind of a term in Fire Emblem games where I think it literally means side story.
Yes, it does.
They're usually optional side quest chapters in a lot of Fire Emblem games, but in this case, it's required. So we actually have a chapter where you use Ephraim, the other protagonist of the game. And we have this guy named Orson. He's basically a temporary Seth. Spoiler alert, he betrays you after this chapter.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
All right. This chapter is really, really boring because it's a Cease chapter where I have to get Ephraim to the very end. And it's just no real way to speed it up at all. Like, you just have to kill whatever's in the way, and it's just really boring.
I think there's a solution to that, though.
Yeah, the
isn't there?
enemies have a lot of sympathy for me, so they decided to kind of get out of my way to make this a less boring chapter and unequip all their weapons and rescue their friends because they really fight for their friends.
So what happened there is called the enemy control glitch. There are a couple ways to activate it, but the general principle is that you have to reset when an enemy ends their turn on an actor tile. What is an actor tile? Well, in this case, it's the far upper left tile, which becomes one after you open a door or a chest or something like that. Also, later on, you will see him use the torch staff as the primary method for activating the glitch. When you use the torch staff, the tile you use it on becomes an actor tile, and you are then able to use the enemy control glitch by soft resetting on the proper timing.
Yeah, so I wanted to point out these two enemies. This guy's a monk. He uses light magic, and this guy is a soldier. He uses lances, but they decided to try to trade professions, but it's not going very well.
They just don't know what to do now. A
Yeah.
lot of this is actually planned, like them rescuing their friends. That's just so there's less movement. Enemy movement obviously takes time, so he wants to minimize that.
All right, so I bought 10 javelins with 4,000 gold. I'm going to use my remaining 1,000 to buy a torch staff. It's funny how that math works out perfectly, because I actually need all 10 javelins I got. All right, so this is what we call a fog of war, where your vision is very limited. Most characters have a vision range of 3. You can't see past that. But there is a really helpful tool called the torch staff, which, as Alec mentioned, when you use a torch staff on a tile, you can see around that tile. But when you use that tile, also becomes what we call an actor tile. So in that specific spot, what we're going to see happen is the very first enemy that moves in this chapter is a soldier. He's going to kind of step on that, and then I can just reset there. And enemy control glitch. So this is not strictly necessary, but when I was routing this and I saw the RNG, there was a 1, meaning if you have a crit rate, you're probably going to crit. So I just fed Vanessa a random crit there, and it's funny how that works out perfectly.
Just getting her the experience she needs to get to level 10 in time. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. And this boss has 39 HP in Japanese version. He has, I think, 26, 27 on English version. Don't ask me why.
Yeah, language version differences,
There's a lot.
they get weird in Fire Emblem. Like, some of them make sense, some of them make absolutely none. That's an Orion's Bolt. That is a promotion item that he is not going to be using. It's for archers.
Which, I mean, you only get one archer in the game who is arguably unfortunately, one of the worst characters in the game.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, featuring chapter number 2 with no Seth. So this is a Cease chapter. This is one of those interesting chapters where you normally have to kind of go all the way around the map and it takes forever because there's a bazillion forests. But if you have Vanessa or Ross as a pirate, because pirates can cross water, then you can skip a lot of this chapter pretty easily.
Also, shoutouts to the Lolgers.
Yeah, the soldiers there, we call them Lolgers because their stats are notoriously terrible. Like, pretty much, they have like 0 defense and like 0 everything besides strength and HP. So, alright, Iroka fans, you donated for this. This is her boss kill of the map, of the game. Hey!
So you can see she has 15 might with her rapier there. That's an example of that weapon being super effective or just strong against
Cavalry.
cavalry units and also armored knights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, rapier works out really nicely because Erika would not have any crit at all in that boss normally. Oops. I should try to turn off animations. I completely forgot. Oops, we just lost a minute. We're gonna have some fun here.
So yeah, he doesn't bring many units just to speed up the turns, and now the enemies are all going to be attacking Vanessa. He needs to grind some experience and levels on her, of course, and there's also just the fact that you can't really prevent them from attacking without enemy control glitch, and that's not really worth it in this map.
Yeah, like you can enemy control glitch this map technically with the upper left corner tile, but it's like not worth it. In fact,
It would take
no,
minutes.
it should be
I think.
impossible because there's no changeable tiles on this map.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's
you
true.
can't.
Never mind.
There's no way to enemy control glitch this.
I was going to say it's up there in pretty inaccessible territory anyway. It would take
Yeah.
way too long. But if you can't do it to begin with, then so that these archers, you can see they would
Ow.
do a lot of damage if they hit Vanessa, and there's that ballista, which would also be super effective against flyers.
Turn off animations. GG.
Yeah, so the animations don't affect the random number generator, fortunately, but they obviously do take time. So for most of the combat, they're going to be off. He just wants to show off a few of them, like he said, because they're cool.
Yeah, they're cool. Orson betrayed us. Spoiler alert. Okay, so Arthur Colm. This chapter is another Cease chapter. It's one of my favorite chapters, actually, with respect to the route, because normally, if you just want to beat the chapter, you would have Seth just carry Erika and just go to the end and just kill everything on the way. It's kind of boring. But we have 2 other side objectives to make. One, this is a chapter where at the end, we want Vanessa to be level 10. She's currently level 7. Now 8, I think. So we still need to keep feeding her more experience. And she's becoming quite powerful. This is probably going to be the best Vanessa you're ever going to see, by the way. On the other hand, you also, to promote someone, you need their respective promotion item. In Vanessa's cape is the Elysian Whip. And there is a chest with the Elysian Whip in the very upper left corner of the map, which costs around 2 minutes to get, but it already pays itself off over the 2 or 3 chapters after it.
Yeah, the Elysian Whip is the promotion item for flyers in general. In this case, you get either a Pegasus Knight or a Wyvern Rider, depending on the route that you use. And in order to use a promotion item, the unit using it needs to be level 10. So it's not just to make Vanessa stronger that he's leveling her up, because he wouldn't necessarily have to give her as many levels if he didn't have to get her to level 10. Just for strength purposes alone. It's because she needs to be level 10 to use the item.
Alright, so yeah, I'm basically having Seth and Vanessa carry Colm and Erika. Colm is a thief that joined us a few chapters ago. Thieves, if they have a lockpick, they can open chests and doors for us, which is really handy, especially in the chapter here. Also, here, have a 2% crit. Bye. Alright. Alright, so these scrubs here are kind of in the way. So I'm just gonna kind of cuddle them up and try to avoid as much combat as possible.
And you saw him enter the menu there and switch units that way. Sometimes it's faster to switch on the map, sometimes it's faster to switch through the menu. And it basically depends on how far you would have to move the cursor.
It's kind of interesting to devise strats around that because basically you have something called L switching in this game. So when you press L on a character, then you jump to the next character in the unit list, which is set in the chapter. But if you press L on an empty tile, you jump to the first unused unit on the map. You can go backwards in a similar way by pressing R on a character, which opens up their status screen, and then pressing up. So there's a lot of interesting little optimizations you could come up with that. Yeah, that's a lot of manipulation I just did. Actually, I'm not sure if I did that right. I'm just gonna make sure. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
So as you can see, you can actually redo that if you need to, simply because it's basically using the same autosave that you used before, and the actions that you take, you have to actually confirm an action before the changes to the random numbers will be finalized.
Yeah, the game doesn't autosave RNG changes for the most part. Seth has to kill the boss with a javelin, which is really difficult because javelins are really weak and inaccurate too. But Seth has to kill the boss at 2 range because he needs to be able to damage a wall that's in the way of the Elysian Whip on the next turn. And he's barely in range right now. Otherwise, he can just kill the boss in 2 hits with the Silver Lance without needing a crit. Okay, so I can end the chapter now, but again, I need the whip. So I'm gonna spend a few turns grabbing it. So I'm gonna weaken this wall. Seth has barely enough strength to destroy that wall in 2 hits, by the way. So it works out very nicely. And Vanessa and Colm also need to survive. They're not exactly very bulky, so they both die in 2 hits, I think. And there's 2 archers nearby. They both have longbows, which are unique bows that can allow you to attack from 3 range. Meaning, unless you have a longbow yourself, you cannot counterattack them. Very annoying to deal with. But fortunately, they all just miss Vanessa. Alright, so break down this wall. Colm is going to drop his iron sword. Important, because there's a knight that's going to attack him, and knight beats Colm in the weapon triangle, and if Colm drops his iron sword, the knight has a higher chance of missing. Which never talked about the weapon triangle.
No, we didn't.
So let's go over that.
So there are lances, swords, and axes. Swords have a bit less damage, but they have a higher hit rate. Lances are in the middle, and then axes have the highest damage, lowest chance to hit. But they also have different effects on each other. Swords are strong against axes, which are strong against lances, which are strong against swords. And when you're fighting an enemy that you beat in the weapon triangle, you gain 1 damage and 20% hit, is it?
15 in
15.
this game.
Okay, yeah, it varies from one game to another. Some of it's 10. And then they get the same as debuffs. Or vice versa, if you're losing the weapon triangle.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Erica's route, you all donated for this. So here you go. This is the point of the game where you choose which character to go with. And we choose to go with Erica, because you all donated for her. Which, in my opinion, is a more fun route, so it's okay. Alright, so we're gonna promote Vanessa immediately. A general misconception among a lot of casual players is that promoting early is always bad, which is not strictly true per se, because generally speaking, yes, if you are aiming to have a unit hit level 20 and try to max their stats, yes, it's better to promote at level 20, but in most cases, that's never realistically going to happen without excessive grinding. And especially in a speedrun case where you want to get the direct benefits of a promotion as soon as possible. So right here, Vanessa gained 4 Constitution and 2 Speed, and because her Constitution is typically terrible, she gets weighed down by almost anything, so she actually just effectively gained 6 Speed, basically, which is ridiculous.
Yes, each weapon has a weight value. More powerful weapons have higher weight values. And based on the character's constitution stat, they can lose a certain number of speed points when they're wielding that weapon. So, the fact that Vanessa was just so fast in terms of raw speed was really important before now, in terms of her being able to double things with the javelin instead of the, I believe she starts with a slim lance.
Yes.
And Slimlance has very low weight, so she's not really weighed down by it. She's able to use her full speed. But with javelins, which you want her using for various utility reasons, she would have been weighed down significantly more.
They have 11 weight. She starts with 5 con, so she loses 6 speed, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's significant. You can also see another Pegasus Knight there, Tana. She is not really used much for combat, just a little bit. She's primarily used to ferry units around. You saw a couple chapters ago that he used Vanessa to fly Erica to a boss area where he needed to seize a chapter. And he's been doing the same with Seth and other units with a lot of mobility to ferry around units. Having 2 flyers is very, very important in terms of being able to move around the units you need to move around in a few specific chapters.
Alright. We haven't talked about this actual chapter, but this is a route chapter, so I have to defeat every enemy unit on the map. Vanessa has to kill this boss with a javelin because she needs to counterattack everything that's near her. There's a shaman nearby that attacks her at 2 range. She activated a skill there called Pierce, even though she would have done 9 damage otherwise. Pierce is a skill that Wyvern Knights learn upon promotion, and the activation rate of Pierce is your level. So Vanessa had a 1% chance of activating Pierce. But she had 0 crit on that boss, I think. I don't remember off the top of my head, so she has to get it. No, she didn't have 0 crit. She got a crit anyways. I'm thinking of a different boss. But Pierce is a skill that Vanessa's class learns, and what it does is it negates enemy defense, which is really relevant at endgame.
Yeah, each promoted class, Paladin, Wyvern Knight, Sage, so on, has a unique skill in
Not
this
all
game.
of them, but some of them do.
Yeah. So, Pierce is actually very important and useful because when you're lining up even a regular attack against an enemy with a lot of defense and you just negate that, you deal a lot of damage.
Okay, so here, my goal is to finish this chapter in 3 turns, which is pretty absurd because this is a really big map with a lot of enemies to kill on the map. There is one tile. There's a lot of 4 enemies around Seth, but it's impossible for all 4 of them to attack Seth on the same turn, actually. So I actually deploy Arthur, who is a light mage, just to kill 1 enemy. Right there. Ow. See ya. Arthur works out nicely because he's a mage, so he targets resistance, and physical units have bad resistance. On top of that, light magic tends to have higher crit rates, meaning Arthur has an existing crit rate on that mercenary. So he was able to play his role to kill 1 unit. Earlier in this chapter, I also had another horse unit, Kyle, to take out a pirate because he actually has a pretty respectable base strength stat. So with the steel sword, he was able to kill a random pirate in 2 hits. Which is kind of the cool thing about route chapters, because you just see more character variety in route chapters, even if you just use a random unit just to pick off one enemy unit.
Kyle is one of the traditional social knight units. So they don't really get used because they're not needed, but they're used on occasion, mostly for mobility, occasionally for the occasional chip kill. And while the rest of these enemies are finished off, I think it would be a good time for a donation.
Yeah, we can squeeze in like 1 donation.
Okay, well, how about $250 from Walt? Indeed, y'all have been doing a great job applying your skills to these runs. Great work.
All right, thank you. Chapter 10. This is a siege chapter where you're supposed to kind of go all the way to the bottom and open a gate and then seize the throne after killing like 10 enemies. And there's also a few green units that will join us at the end of this chapter if they survive.
Whoa, spoilers.
Oh, well. Yeah, good point. Oops. Featuring the 3rd chapter in a run with no Seth. Yeah, you see that mountain? Who cares about mountains? We're just going to fly over it.
Yeah, some layouts are just not insurmountable.
Yeah, so Tana there is going to ferry Erica most of the way, and then Vanessa's going to take her and drop her. That's a pretty common technique for ferry strats.
Yeah, because when you rescue someone, you cannot drop them on the same turn. You need to just have someone... If you want to move someone on the same turn you rescue them, you have to use a 2nd unit to drop them on the same turn, which is what I did here. That right there is a sniper. He's Ines. He's a pre-promoted archer. Archers tend to be not good in most Fire Emblem games because they can't counterattack at 1 range. And that's still true for Ines, but he's really useful in a few cases for this run, which we'll see soon. Meanwhile, the boss is in the way, and there's also this jerk who's blocking our path. So I'm going to go ahead and kill the boss with Vanessa first. Vanessa has 0 crit. she needs to land a Pierce instead, which is around a 1 or 2% chance. So there's a Pierce animation if you like it. And see ya. And on top of that, she gets a good level, hopefully. Yeah, you're gonna see those 3 stats a lot. FYI.
Specifically, the first 3 of those.
Yeah, the first
Strength,
3.
skill, and speed. Those are the primary offensive stats, so those are the ones that are going to be used a lot, because if you need your character to dodge, you can usually manipulate it.
And this is for you Tana fans. She gets a crit. And peace out. Alright, this next chapter is a Fog of War. It's also a route chapter, so I need to defeat every enemy unit on the map, but you will see a bit of the enemy control glitch again. Basically, the general gist of this chapter is that you're in a building that kind of winds back and forth, and it's really annoying to navigate. There's also a bunch of enemies in the bottom left corner of the map. And there's a bunch of force tiles in the way. The problem with Seth is that he's on a horse, a grounded horse, and grounded mounted units suffer a 3 movement penalty through force tiles. Grounded infantry units usually suffer a 2 movement penalty. So that's why I'm going to be using Vanessa to take care of the lower left corner, while Seth kills everything in the building. And given that this is a longer route chapter, this will be a good time for a few more donations.
Absolutely. And speaking of Seth, $20 from Anonymous. I'm really happy to see my first Fire Emblem game getting a run out, so I just had to make my first donation to AGDQ during it. I'll add another $1 on for each level that my main man Seth ends on.
I actually don't remember.
I don't remember off the top
I
of my
think
head
it's like
either.
14, 15, something like that. You'll see at the end of the run.
Yeah.
Remind me to check his stats before the last chapter.
Absolutely. $15 from Old General Crash. Hey Kirby Master, thank you for showing this awesome run of Fire Emblem 8, which to this day remains one of the best in the series. You could also use Amelia, but Seth is fine too. Shout out to the Fire Emblem Reddit community. $50 from the Proverbial Penguin. First time donator, long time watcher, had to donate for my favorite Fire Emblem game. Thanks for all the great games and even better stream. Also, Naimi for life.
All right, coming up is the hardest thing in the game, and I'm gonna need some serious time for this.
Yep.
FYI. I'm half joking, but enemy control glitch is actually really easy if you know how to set it up. The frame window for it's really wide. I would probably estimate like 1/3 of a second. I've never actually timed it though. But I have a habit of missing this enemy control glitch because I just don't pay attention. So, pay attention.
Yeah, the timing queue for this is a little bit different than most other instances of this in the run.
Yeah, because usually you have an enemy attacking someone during enemy control glitch, which is a really easy cue to catch. But in this case, that's not going to be the case. So, there we go. I just have to pay attention, and it's easy. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm moving these 2 units against the wall so Ines can snipe them through the wall. And there's also a door in the bottom right area with like 10 enemies there that's blocked by the door. I'm going to use an enemy that has a door key to open the door early. Those 3 stats again.
Normally,
Like
it
that.
wouldn't be opened nearly as early.
Yeah.
And then he's going to move a few other units down faster than they would move themselves, and cause them to attack a little bit.
More importantly, they're Frankerz's.
Frankerzy.
Alright, so there is a longbow archer. I'm gonna move Molder here to see the archer, so Seth can actually kill him, because he's a jerk. And again, I can't counterattack longbow archers on enemy phase, so I need to use a player phase to take it out. Okay. And I need to manipulate Seth into gaining strength at the minimum next level. Of course, it's always important to get strength, but it's especially important here because there's going to be some Frankerz's that will attack Seth on the pillar, and the pillar gives a +1 defense, +20 avoid boost. Seth cannot double attack them, surprisingly, because they're very fast. Meaning Seth has to kill them in 1 hit, but because thanks to the defense boost from the pillar, he doesn't kill them in 1 hit anymore. But gaining strength on this next level up will give him just enough strength to one-shot these Frankerz's coming up soon. But yeah, there's not too much else to talk about in this chapter. It's just waiting on a bunch of enemies to suicide and kill themselves on Vanessa and Seth, so this is a good time for some more donations. There we go. We're going to see our lovely 3 stats again. Strength, skill, speed.
Got $151 from Anonymous. I never expected to see a Fire Emblem game on GDQ. Some of my favorite old games. $20 from Nebbles48. Had to donate during the Fire Emblem run. FE is one of my favorite series, and Sacred Stones is one of my favorite games. Good luck to all the runners, and let's kill cancer.
Thank you.
$150 from Hawkeye40. Wish I wasn't working during the Sacred Stones run. Shout out from Serene's Forest. Donation to Runner's Choice.
Yeah, that's one of the main Fire Emblem communities on the internet.
And we have another turn of enemy suiciding, so take it away.
$150 from Anonymous. Erica is the best. Fire Emblem is one of my favorite series of all times, and I couldn't not donate during it. Hi, Kaz. Hashtag Team Chibi SIRL. $5 from Rikito. Sacred Stones was the first Fire Emblem game I played. Love seeing games broken in half and am not disappointed. Donation to Runner's Choice.
Thank you. Right, so this should be the last enemy in the chapter. Next chapter is another really big route chapter. Thankfully not in a fog of war. We also just got Dozla and Larachel. Larachel being objectively the best character in the entire series. If you disagree with me, you're objectively wrong.
I don't want to be right.
All right, so Dozla is really useful because he is a pre-promoted Berserker. Hold on. Oop. It's one of those few more involved bases. But yeah, he's a pre-promoted Berserker, and Berserkers in this game gain a plus 15% crit bonus. They can also walk on peaks, which is very equally important in this chapter. The reason why that's important is because there's a bunch of mountains in this chapter and a bazillion stupid spiders. These spiders are really bulky, and they're also on mountains, which gives them a plus 2 defense boost, plus 40 avoid boost. Yeah, and they move 1 tile per turn, which makes them even more annoying because it takes forever for them to get off a freaking mountain. So Dozla's role is very important because he's one of my very few units who can go on peaks. The other being Vanessa and Tana, but Tana is in no position to actually take on these spiders because she's really weak at the moment. Another thing to note is I did a rescue drop. We also got another unit named Tethys. She is what we call a dancer. Dancers allow units to move again. So in this case, I had Tana rescue Seth, refresh Tana's movement so she can drop Seth across the mountain to skip half the map with Seth. Seth crossed an invisible trigger point on his map that triggers a bazillion reinforcements to spawn, and given that there's no way to directly avoid it, and given that this is a route chapter, I want him to spawn as soon as possible so I can clean them out immediately. So right there. I'm sure a lot of casuals probably got caught off guard by that, by trying to skip the map. I did for sure. So you see some Ines kicking butt here. And another unit we got is Saleh. He is a pre-promoted sage. He has really respectable base stats, and he can pretty much kill anything he wants for the most part.
If any of you have played...
For the fans. All right, go ahead.
If any of you have played the previous game, Fire Emblem 7 Blazing Sword, you may be familiar with Pent. Saleh is kind of like Pent, not quite as good. You could call him Pent Light. But he's still really good and really useful.
Okay. Yeah, so the thing with Saleh is that if you saw the Fire Emblem run last year, you saw some significant use of the rescue and warp staffs, which you get late game, which allow you to warp faraway units to the staff user and vice versa. Those 2 staffs require having a B rank and A rank, but Saleh only starts with C rank staves, unfortunately. So we're not going to see those staffs used at all in this run because training Saleh's staff rank to B rank costs way too much time to do, and also wastes some of his turns that he could be better spending in a speedrun setting. So it's kind of unfortunate, but this run is still very fast. So
those gargoyle enemies have pretty high defenses and strength, but they don't really have much resistance at all. So those 2 that are down by Saleh are pretty easy pickings for him.
And here we go. Another level. I think I've seen that level up.
Speed.
Have you? I think it's my first time seeing that.
All right, so there's going to be a lot more enemy killing since this is another route chapter. So it's probably another good time for some more donations.
Yep.
Sounds good to me. $33 from Karma Jolt. Fire Emblem? I hardly knew him. Also, marginally fun fact, the sacred stones in this game are the same sacred stones from Double Dragon 3 The Sacred Stones. Erica's route is nice, but it doesn't give you a chance to recruit Bimmy. Anyway, keep up the great work. This is Karma Jolt, and I'm telling my friends you're great.
Bimmy Lee is bestly.
$50 from Cabs. I love Fire Emblem. Makes me feel really smart, like when sending a single person to take out an entire army every battle. Classical tactical maneuver. $20 from Ducks Tim. Had to donate during the Fire Emblem run. I love Fire Emblem, and I want to see Cancer get the boot. Good luck, Kirby. By the way, I want to see someone beat the one level I can't beat in Super Mario 3D World. $10 from Ninian. I have to donate during the Fire Emblem run because it's my favorite game series, and because not only did cancer take my grandfather many years ago, but it also just recently took my boyfriend's grandmother. Cancer is a horrible thing, and I hope this donation will help to end it. Good luck to the runner, and may the RNG goddess be with you.
Thank you for the donation, and I'm sorry to hear that.
$50 from Lady N. So many people in my life have been suffering from cancer in some form. Some survived and some did not. This donation is for all of them in the hopes that this disease will finally be cured soon. $10 from Kurth101. Lost both my grandmother and dog to cancer last year, so glad this is going to a good cause. Shout out to the Odd One Fire Emblem community for getting me into the series. Looking forward to this run.
Something interesting to note. There's a unit you can recruit on this chapter called Ewan. He's what we call a trainee unit, similar to Amelia and Ross. They're kind of like a tier 0 unit. Ewan and Amelia are generally considered some of the worst characters because they take way too much effort to raise and don't grow as well as people think. But Ewan also joins with an energy ring on this, which is a really useful stat booster. Unfortunately, it's actually not really directly useful in the Irika's route, but you do actually use an energy ring to get into Ephraim's route, which is interesting.
Yeah, an energy ring raises either strength or magic, depending on which kind of character uses it, by 2. Most stat raising items raise the relevant stat by 2.
And as energy, given that strength is like one of the most important stats of all time, it's like there's usually only like 1 per game because it's such an important stat booster for good reason. Okay, so the chapter is almost over. Alright, and we have like 3 units left, I think. And if this goes right, Vanessa should gain our lovely 3 golden stats again. Lovely. Alright. So the next chapter coming up is an 11-turn defend chapter. And in an Ephraim route speedrun, we actually use Cormag as our main flyer because he has better, more reliable base stats than Vanessa. And he joins at a better time. In Arika's route, he joins significantly later, and it requires waiting like at least 7 or 8 turns for him to show up on this chapter, which we can actually just end in 1 turn. So, spoiler alert. But unfortunately, so that's why we stick to using Vanessa, because she's around for longer, and just recruiting Cormac is just stupid in this chapter.
Availability is a legitimate factor you have to bear in mind when you're looking at a unit.
So we got Garrick. He's a pretty useful one-range unit. He has really good base stats, and it's already level 10, I think.
Yes.
And we have Ines, who's going to ride his Ballista and kill this fun unit here. Bye, Amelia.
Angel Thumb.
Angel Thumb, indeed.
Kirby, how could you?
Oh, well.
Oh, well, she's not going to add much to the run anyways. I can tell so many people are going to be angry at me for that. That is not part of the route. I routed it in for fun. All right, so Sala is gonna be awesome here. So if you're a Sala fan, woo, 3% crit. This boss is incredibly bulky. Like he's able to tank a crit from Sala, which targets resistance too. So killing this boss in 1 turn is actually really difficult.
And it's also very important that he used that specific tome because you can see only a 3% chance. He got 5 from the tome, so it would have been a 0 because it was less if he had been using his other magic tome. But he will be using that other tome Hellfire instead of Thunder quite a bit because he does need to grind some weapon experience on Saleh so that he's able to use an even more powerful tome, Excalibur, later on.
Yes, so the Thunder Tome gives Saleh 1 weapon experience per hit and 2 weapon experience for a killing blow. So typically speaking, if Saleh 2-hit KOs an enemy with Thunder, he gains 3 weapon experience. With Hellfire, that is actually doubled. So in other words, you gain 4 weapon experience for a killing blow and 2 for a hit. But the downside to Hellfire is that while it is more powerful and actually more accurate than Thunder, it actually weighs him down a bit, which makes him unable to double certain enemies. Whoa, I always forget to turn off animations. It's alright.
So a little bit of ironic timing there. We just got $20 from IC254 who says, Amelia is best girl. You're objectively wrong.
I am
Also, don't forget... Okay, good. I was going to say.
I apologize. Not really.
Getting flashbacks to RPG Limit Break there.
Yeah, so Saleh plays kind of an important role here because not only do we need to raise his weapon experience, but there's a lot of 1 to 2 range enemies on this map. And Saleh plays the role of just clearing the path for our mounted units, Seth and Vanessa, to go through. This is a classic Siege chapter, so what my goal is to eventually have Seth and Vanessa carry Erica and Tethys, the Dancer, to the throne as quickly as I can. So a bit of manipulation here. So this guy here is a thief. You can recruit him by talking to him with Laracial, I think, but he's in the way, and he's useless for us, so we're just going to kill him. He's very fast, so we cannot actually double him. So you have to manipulate a crit with Thunder on him.
And that item he just got is rather important.
It's not important for the run, but it's very useful otherwise. It's called a Members Card, which allows you to visit a secret shop, which I think there's a secret shop in this map. It's
Yep.
in the green patch to the left of the throne, I think. I don't remember off the top of my head. But we're not going to use the secret shop in the speedrun.
Yeah, those are places that you can get all sorts of interesting things. And there are speedruns of Fire Emblem games that do use it, but you just don't need it here.
Fire Emblem 6. The speedrun for Fire Emblem 6 goes to the secret shop to buy boots, because you can literally buy boots there, which permanently boosts your movement by +2. So you have like 14 movement Roy running around in the speedrun. It's great. I think they realized how stupid it was after that game, so you can't buy boots anywhere after that.
Yeah, boots are actually really hard to come by in this game, even with the post-game content that they added.
Yeah, you can get infinite boots in this game, but that requires doing some manipulation with the Lagdo Ruins. There's actually a guide for manipulating that somewhere on GameFAQs where if you do the manipulation properly, you can always spawn an enemy that drops at boots. Swift Souls in this game, but I'm just going to call them boots because it's a stupid name in my opinion. And then you could just get 15 move, everyone. 15 moves is the max movement for every character, so it's kind of funny. Alright, so this chest is very important. It has the spear, which is going to be Vanessa's main boss-killing weapon towards the end of the run. Because the spear is the 3rd most powerful lance in the game, I think. It's the Silver Lance and the Vidofner, which is the legendary lance, are the only lances stronger than the spear. However, the spear is reasonably accurate. It has 1 to 2 range, which the other lances do not. Very important. And on top of that, what makes it a good boss-killing weapon is the fact that it has +5 crit. It doesn't sound like much, but given that I've been getting a lot of important kills with Saleh, getting +5 crit from the Thunder Tome, it's pretty important for a manipulator run.
You might even say it's critical.
It's a very critical point.
But yeah, that just goes into the idea of manipulating fast rather than manipulating more. Because if you use the weapon that has a greater chance to hit that will still kill, then you might have to do less RNG burn, and that's just faster.
Mm-hmm. Right here, having Erica and Tethys close together near the throne is really useful because thanks to Tethys being able to refresh Erica, I can effectively have her seize the throne from 10 squares away. She's exactly 10 tiles away, and I want to be as far away from the throne as I can while being able to seize it because... excuse me. That means Seth can kill fewer enemies because you want to avoid killing enemies you don't need to kill. That's why there's 2 random knights just kind of surviving there, chilling. Alright, so Seth is running out of javelins, so Vanessa's going to give him one. Alright, here, have a crit. This crit is actually really annoying to manipulate, because as you can see from the stat screen, 42 hit is not very reliable. So even with a 30% crit, the chances of killing this boss is kind of low, because Seth also does not double attack this boss, since he's very fast. And at this point, Seth's level ups don't really matter anymore because he has the stats he needs for most of the rest of the run, actually. So it's not really important. It's not vital to keep improving his stats that much. He has what he needs for the most part.
And these are the first two of those weapons that I mentioned earlier that only get their might doubled on something they're super effective against. The important one is the Tome, Excalibur. That's going to go on Saleh, and he's going to be able to use it soon, but he can't quite use it at the start of this chapter. It is strong against flyers and monsters.
It's in some games, not this game.
Okay. And, yeah, just monsters. That's right. We checked this before the run. Sorry, I'm tired.
It's all right.
I've been doing a lot over the last
There is a
couple
lot
days.
to remember in this game, and I would not be surprised if I said something wrong in this game.
But it also has very high damage, very high might specifically, and a critical rate. So it's easier to manipulate criticals. There's Boots. It's a random chance based on the character's luck, much more likely, if not guaranteed, depending on the game. It varies. For Thieves, but he's able to get that one just by using the RNG seed and Saleh's luck.
Yeah, the chance of finding a hidden item in the desert for Sacred Stones depends on the main RNG of the game, which is the same RNG I've been manipulating the entire time. So, as opposed with Fire Emblem 6 and 7, the RNG for finding desert items is actually different. Works differently. It's independent of the main combat RNG. So what you can kind of manipulate having a guaranteed desert item in those two games by soft resetting the game, resuming chapter, and then opening up a stat screen and or a weapon screen, and then just waiting on the tile with a hidden item, and you're guaranteed to find it. There's a list of like which cases that what you do for each mode because it's actually different between like Eliwood mode and Hector mode, I think, for whatever reason. I don't know why, but in Sacred Stone's case, it's just the main RNG where it just burns exactly one random number to calculate, do you find this or not? So, all right, so Saleh did just hit S rank Animatome, meaning he can now use Excalibur soon, and we're gonna see him melt a bunch of stuff. And this is a chapter where he kind of wants to join the trinity of OP units with Seth and Vanessa. Unfortunately, he failed to test because he joins too late in the game, but he's still pretty awesome. His survivability is an actual issue because as a mage, he's rarely dodgy, but he cannot take like more than 2 hits, and it's really important to keep him as healthy as possible because he's going to be killing the boss in the bottom right corner. Manipulating a crit on the boss on top of the boss missing Saleh is like almost impossible.
Yeah.
It's just much easier to just have Saleh make sure he can take a hit from the boss and not worry about that.
There are 2 bosses in this chapter, and they're both really strong.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, as you said, they're going to be melting a lot of units. So we have time for a few donations.
I agree.
$10 from Dirk Grayson. Rip Prince Joshua, you monster. $40 from Brecken Sky. Yo, Kirby Master. Your FE runs are great. Always a highlight of these events. Let's crit cancer together. Can I get a Seth best waifu from the crowd? No?
The crowd
You
wants
want to? I'm not the crowd.
I'm not the
I don't
crowd,
have
so.
$5 from Anonymous. First time viewer of GDQ. Great to see this is going to a good cause. Also, Kirby Master gained a fan.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it. Oh, Ephraim just joined us kind of late. So something to note about this chapter. I forgot if you mentioned, but this is a route chapter. We have to kill everything. There are 2 units on the bottom of the map. They're troubadours, which are staff users, and they're annoying because they don't attack you on enemy phase. So for each troubadour on the map, I need to use a unit's player phase to kill them. And Saleh's busy because he has to kill the shaman on the next turn, and Vanessa is going to kill 1 troubadour, but again, there's only 1 Vanessa.
You could say it's a shame about that shaman.
Yeah. But that's why I'm going to be using a strat to get Tana down here to help pick off the second troubadour, because she's just barely strong enough to 2-hit KO her, which is really nice. Unrelatedly-ish, the boss in the upper left corner, he has what we call an iron... Okay, it's an iron rune in Fire Emblem 7. I don't remember what it's called in this game. But it's an item that prevents crits, meaning I can't manipulate a crit on him. So I have to just hit him 3 times, because he's just really bulky, and there's no way Seth can actually kill him in 2 hits. So...
Wait, there are things Seth can't do?
Yeah, I know, right?
Not many.
But here's an interesting version difference, though, which is very relevant. In the Japanese version of this game, Kalich, the boss in the upper left corner, moves. which is good in this case because that means I don't have to go to him. And also in the English version of the game, he does not move and he's parked on a freaking fort, which gives him auto recovery plus 2 defense and extra avoid, making killing him even more of a pain in the butt. So, one very nice thing about running the Japanese version of the game. Another thing to note, we didn't talk too much about Japanese differences, but the main reason I'm running on the Japanese version of the game, I should have talked about this earlier, but too much to talk about. Every time you reset, if you hold the start button, you can jump straight back into battle without having to go through resume chapter or something, and I need to reset every time I do enemy control glitch. I'm also resetting between most chapters to reset the RNG seed appropriately. In the English version of the game, they started adding that warning health and safety screen, and so trying to do a quick reset does not work. You have to wait a few seconds for that health and warning safety screen or whatever, and then go through the title screen, go through the main menu, and it loses like at least like 10 seconds for every reset. So like the Japanese version is like significantly faster than English just because of that. There are other several differences, like certain character growths are a little bit different here and there, and boss stats are different here and there. Usually, enemy stats are stronger in the Japanese version than English. Not always. Oh yeah. Here, have a crit with Arthur. Hey. So yeah, Arthur's one of those units. We're recruiting him just to get 1 kill, because there's no unit near this mercenary that can actually kill him. And Arthur actually does not suffer any movement penalty on the desert. Mages and flyers do not suffer any movement penalty, which is why Seth is left killing the stuff in the top, because most of those tiles are not desert tiles. Okay. I think that's it. Okay, no. I need to do this. So here, Tethys is barely in range to refresh Tana here, and now Tana is going to pick off this last Troubadour. And almost everything is dead. So we now just end turn. This is Valter. Well, not yet. See ya. Oh, I forgot to turn on animations. Oh well.
Yeah.
It's okay.
He would have wanted it for this specific attack right here,
Boom. Bye.
because the Excalibur animation is pretty cool.
It's pretty awesome. All right. So this is also the chapter, kind of one of the chapters where the 2 routes converge, which is why Ephraim just rejoined us. The next chapter is the chapter where the 2 routes, from here on out, the maps are shared between both routes for every chapter. However, this next map coming up is actually really different despite the same map between the 2 routes.
Yeah, you start in a completely different area for each character, and that definitely benefits Erica for at least this speedrunning purpose.
Yeah, it's just better all around. Like, for reference, in Erica's route, you 4-turn this map. In Ephraim's route, you 6-turn it, which is a massive difference.
And not only that, the turns are longer in Ephraim's, because you have to fight your way through a significantly larger portion of the map than you do as Erica.
Mm-hmm.
She can get to the throne room pretty quickly, and you'll also notice him placing his units in a pretty specific positioning here in a few moments. One of the things that can cause reinforcements or enemies to move is just going beyond a certain line. So you don't want to be like Yosemite Sam and just cross the line. Do it when you're ready. In this case, he's going to cross it in such a way that he's going to be able to set it up so that his characters will be kind of in a sweet spot that all the enemies will move to him, but they won't be able to reach him, and then he'll just be able to finish off the chapter, basically.
Yeah, for reference, in Ephraim's route, you start in this position, and you like go all the way around here, and it's just terrible. So like this chapter is actually one of my favorite chapters, like in both routes in the speedrun, just because the strategy just flows really well, and you have some neat little rescue chains as well. And I definitely want to give a shout out to a lot of the people who worked on the speedrun, especially Viken and Rudath and Gwimpage, who really contributed a lot to the community and the route as well, and a lot of ideas. In fact, a lot of the route you see is based off of Viken's old TAS of the game. There's also some stuff I took from, some ideas I took just from other runners, DXD, Burton, etc. And just a lot of ideas that were put together as a community. And even though I was the person who like put this route together in one go, a lot of the strategies you see here are thanks to all the names I mentioned. Oh yeah, by the way, yeah, this isn't the sweet spot that Alec mentioned. No one attacked besides the Purge tomes, Purge users.
Yeah, and those are ranged attack of, I believe it's 3 to 10?
3 to 10.
Yeah. So it was pretty important that they missed because they would have one-shotted either Tethys or Erica at this point.
Yeah, I accidentally found his RNGC when routing. I think PX was in my stream when I streamed this, and I was like, wow, this worked perfectly. All right, don't need to burn any more random numbers. I love it when that happens. All right, so this is kind of the point in the game where you're asked if you want to promote Erica or Ephraim. We're not going to because it wastes a lot of time. So we get their respective promotion items instead. On top of that, we're going to get their legendary weapons. I don't know how you pronounce them. Siegmund, or whatever.
Siegmund, the spear for Ephraim, and then the sword, Sieglinde, for Erica.
Yeah, both very important weapons because they are the only legendary weapons in the game that don't require having S rank. But on the downside, only Ephraim and Erica can use them. Which is really nice, because you don't even need to be promoted to use them. They can just use their weapons right off the bat. So given that the two lords are really underleveled and weak at this point, they can contribute quite a bit in a chapter coming up soon, which will become relevant. But this chapter is a Kill the Boss chapter, and it's a pretty straightforward chapter and self-explanatory. So we can take it off with a few donations.
$300 from Husker. I've always been a fan of AGDQ, and this year I've decided to step up and donate. My mom was recently diagnosed with cancer, and I want to do my part and make her proud by helping prevent cancer for others in the world. A huge thanks to the staff, runners, and fans that make this whole event possible. Together, we can make a difference.
I think we have time for one more.
Sure. $10 from Hikari Inu124. Greetings from Silver Spring, Maryland. I want to donate during the FE8 run and give a warm shout out to my home on the internet, the Hitbox Dimension over on Discord. Hi, Kirby Master, and good luck on the run. I watched you root this game with Samus Returns and love seeing you play the games I love. Keep up the good work, all. Putting this toward the suitless Metroid run. P.S. Today is my birthday, so here is some birthday money to spread the love.
Thank you very much, and happy birthday. All right, this chapter is a really cool route chapter. Some people don't like it. I like it a lot from a speedrunning standpoint because it's one of those chapters where it is a route chapter, but it's a really paraphrase-oriented route chapter, which is really interesting. You wouldn't think that. That's because in this chapter, there's a bazillion eggs you have to destroy that are immobile, and they don't attack you until they hatch, which at that point, you don't want that to happen. And the game really rewards you for going fast and destroying these eggs because you get a lot of experience for every egg you defeat. Exactly 50, no matter what level you are.
The game just wants to egg you on, clearly.
Yes.
So, exactly 50, is that what you said, Kirby?
Yes, exactly 50.
Anyway, he's going to be using a fair number of different units just to finish these eggs off quickly, including one he got in the last chapter, Vanessa's sister, Cyrene, the third Pegasus. Probably wondering why her sister's riding a wyvern instead of a Pegasus, but, you know, whatever.
Well, I'm sure we'll see that in a few minutes. We'll see that right away anyway.
Yeah, so you can see that some of these eggs are gaining HP, kind of like incubating. That's the timer, so to speak. And also, they become actor tiles when you kill one.
Egg tiles are actor tiles in this game. A lot of people kind of think that you can activate enemy control glitch off of like any enemy, any tile, wrongly. That's because like you can activate enemy control glitch off of like 1/4 of the tiles on this map, because every egg tile is an actor tile, and every one of those fire trap tiles is also an actor tile. This chapter is pretty much actor tile heaven. So it's really easy to activate on accident.
And what he was doing there was removing a petrify skill from a Medusa enemy that has additional range, so he wouldn't be able to counterattack the Medusa, and that's basically it.
Yeah, I also moved a random enemy on the far right side. That's to make sure the enemy attacks Seth later instead of Saleh. This is the point in the game where I really don't want to avoid level ups as much as possible. So I mentioned that eggs give you 50 experience. That's bad in the speedrun because I don't want experience at this point. Vanessa and Seth have all the stats they need. So kind of routing out this chapter comes down to how can you balance out the number of characters and minimize level ups at the same time. And it kind of became a really interesting puzzle to piece that together. Because like the more units you use, the fewer level ups you'll see because you're spreading the experience out more. But that's more units you're moving per turn. But on the other hand, if you have too few units, you're getting more level ups. So what you see here, it was the kind of sweet spot I was able to find. Like, for example, I think I tried out a strat where I added an nest to help take out an egg, but that actually turned out to be only like 2 seconds slower than what you see now. So it's really close and really fun and difficult to piece that together.
I mean, you can't go fast without breaking a few eggs.
All right. So I'm going to be dropping FM and Arika soon, actually, and as I mentioned before, they can use their legendary weapons. Even though their stats kind of suck right now, their weapons are so good that they can just one-shot almost any monster, as long as they don't miss. So, like, if you're an Ephraim fan, Ephraim's going to get a kill on this map. Right here.
I think if you scramble, you can fit in a donation, or maybe even 2.
You can, hey, 2 or 3 would work.
Oh, quit egging them on.
Yes.
$20.18 from Poochie.exe. Shout out to the adorable Terriermon on the couch. Best of luck to Kirby Master, and may the RNG be ever in your favor. I mean, if you know the list, sure, why not? Please put this toward Terriermon's choice.
Can we assume that to be my choice? Because the Terriermon's mine.
I'd say so. $10 from Smuckers. First time donating to this wonderful event. This game got me through a lot of car rides as a kid. I spent an entire summer getting through Lagdo ruins. Keep on keeping on. Hashtag Cormag hype.
If you wanted Cormag, you would have wanted Ephraim route, unfortunately. Right.
Either way, seems like this is Smucker's jam.
Wait, is that right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, keep going.
$60 from Crispy191. Hey guys, always happy to see a Fire Emblem game getting totally broken. It's amazing how much work goes into a run like this. Love the event, keep up the good work. Put my money toward the next bonus run. $20.18 from Mochiko88. Excited to see the Fire Emblem in GDQ once again. My girlfriend introduced me to GDQ last year, and it was our first hangout back when we were getting to know each other as friends. Can't believe it's been a year now. Gotta donate during one of my favorite franchises, of course, and Sacred Stones is excellent. Let's kick cancer's butt.
One more quick one.
Sure. $10 from Anonymous. This $10 is donated in loving memory of Joshua, Amelia, and Rennick. May their sacrifice be remembered.
Those aren't the only deaths in the run.
And with that, this chapter is over easy.
It was an excellent chapter.
Yeah, why don't we hear more applause for these puns? Come on. Too many boos. All right, this is the best chapter in all Fire Emblem speedrunning. I am right. You are all going to be wrong if you disagree with me. Why? Because we are going to see the Rachel. Yes! Wow, this crowd's pretty quiet. I'm very sad. Okay, on a serious note, LaRachel is actually really useful here because she has more movement than my other staff users. I could technically swap Sale or Molder to a closer tile, but it takes more time than just using LaRachel instead. And she comes with her own torch staff, which is really convenient.
So what you're saying is you're well-staffed.
Yes.
That one burned.
That one burned. All right, so this is a very long defense chapter, but...
Well, fortunately, we can just, torch their formations and run.
Yes. All right, so I'm doing a bit of a rescue chain on the boss. Yeah, rescue chaining the boss is kind of cool. Because the boss is normally in the very bottom left corner, but I used some generals in the fog and moved some enemies out of the way, so I can now just kill the boss right now, and that will end the chapter early. And conveniently enough, I don't need to burn any random numbers to get the crit. So, yeah. All right, so I'm going to be getting a bunch of items here. I want to make sure. Hardest part of menuing. Good. Do not drop Erika's sword. Good. I have a habit of just mashing A through here because in every frame drought, you just mash A instead. Very easy to mix them up. All right, so this is the biggest map in a run and a pretty massive siege chapter, but it's going to be kind of self-explanatory. The thing to note is what I want to do is during enemy phase, I want there to be no grounded units at all. That means that enemies that can only reach grounded units, not units on like peaks or whatever, will not move at all, which saves a lot of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Cyrene, our Falcon Knight, rescue Tethys and just kind of camp out on this peak.
After all, who doesn't love camping in the mountains?
I know. And then Vanessa camps on this thicket, which grounded units cannot cross. So only most of the enemies that move. Is that supposed to happen? I don't remember. We'll see. I don't remember if that's supposed to happen.
But one of the other things that he's doing is he actually wants to have a fair amount of damage.
That is not supposed to happen.
No.
Okay.
He does want a fair amount of damage on Vanessa, but not that much on that turn.
I know what I did wrong. I forgot to do a burn with Cyrene. Okay. So I was hoping this run would be a resetless run with no major resets, but no
unintended resets, rather.
Yeah, but it happens. All right, so here's what I forgot to do. That. Very easy to forget.
But like I was saying, he does want Vanessa to take some damage. Part of the way the AI prioritizes its targets is related to how much health a character has. So if they're about to die, they're in really low HP, they're more likely to be targeted. That's important because you're going to have a really easy to kill Erica just kind of sitting out in the open, but she's not going to get attacked nearly as much because Vanessa is going to be at such low HP. And it's much easier to manipulate Vanessa to dodge than Erica just because she has such higher stats, specifically speed being the main one.
All right, fun fact. Gorgons can fly in the Japanese version. They cannot in the English version. I believe the Japanese version came out first, so they probably realized when localizing, wow, Gorgons really suck. Let's nerf them a bit so they don't fly in the English version. But yeah. All right, so we definitely have time for a few more donations before the end of the run, so take it away.
$50 from Easyscape. Enjoying the Sacred Stones run so far. Keep it up, Kirby Master. Donation goes to Runny's Choice.
Thank you.
And another $50 from Vice. Donating because Kirby Master spoke the undeniable truth about La Rachel being the best character in Fire Emblem.
Yes!
Always enjoy seeing his FE runs. $50 again, this one from Nello. Just had to drop a donation during Fire Emblem, which is one of my favorite games. Lost my dad last year to cancer, so hope this helps people in the future. Big shout out to my girlfriend who introduced me to AGDQ last year. Love you, Kat. Oh, and donation goes to Runner's Choice. $100 from Space Drake 83, donating for a completely mad run of my favorite Fire Emblem game. Great job, Kirby Master and crew, and let's conquer cancer. Also, Vanessa and Heroes win, Nintendo.
Co-op.
$20 from Anonymous. Thanks for speedrunning my favorite FE game. Mir is best girl. Shout out to Fire Emblem General.
This is officially a co-op world record. Thank you, Asquan, for contributing.
You're welcome.
Yeah, just smashing start a bit.
All right, so this chapter, you can actually clear this in 2 turns pretty quickly, but I'm actually burning a turn intentionally here to wait for a bunch of skeletons to move out of the way. Otherwise, I'll attack like 8 extra skeletons on turn 2, and well, actually more than 4, and that's actually just slower.
And I mean, what good run doesn't have a few skeletons in its closet?
I know. All right, so this is a defeat boss chapter, and there's a random skeleton in the way of the boss, so Seth is going to snipe that skeleton, and then Vanessa will get the killing blow on the boss. We mentioned that Vanessa has a skill called Pierce, which negates enemy defense. This is where it's very relevant. I need to manipulate a 12% crit, 12% Pierce at the same time on the boss in order to kill him in 1 hit. Oh, Tana fans, I'm sorry, she's dead.
No.
That is actually very important. She doesn't need to die per se, but I need someone to lure this jerk over, or else this jerk will go here to attack Vanessa, and then Seth will just be blocked. So I need a lure to get that skeleton out of the way. Is that supposed to be? That's this way. No worries. Just mixing up Ephraim and Erica's route. Just making sure. Okay. Longest burn in a run. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. By the way, that is nothing compared to the burns you have to do in Fire Emblem 6. There are cases where you do like up to 20 burns. All right, bye, Lion. All right. How many Ephraim fans are in the audience? I want to hear as many cheers as you want. If there's enough cheers for Ephraim, I got a present for you. I want to hear from the audience. Enough Ephraim? Let's do it. Yeah? Yeah? All right. Oh, wait. Actually, I forgot how to do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. So normally, I would use the Daphner to kill this boss in 1 hit with doing 162 damage. I'm using the spear instead, because I feel like it. Rest in peace, Vanessa.
You see what you did, audience? You killed
Good job,
Vanessa.
audience. It's all your fault. All right, let's have Seth have a go.
You chose this.
I mean, what can't Seth do, right? If
Yeah.
anyone should be able to
Look at that
damage this
crit. He's
boss,
going to crit the boss. Nope. Ow.
What level was Seth before he died?
Oh, good point. Good question.
Yeah, we can check that
Let's
now.
check that now.
well, Seth's not dead, fortunately. So
Level
14.
we'll check it.
14. Yeah, those are his stats right now. All right. One last dance for the run. All right, this is for you, Ephraim fans. Poke. There we go. All right, time will be coming up soon.
It's on the save.
It's on the save, so I'll let you know. And time. Yep, that's Sacred Stones in 1 hour 16. My record with Arika's route is 106, I think, so given I was messing around and stuff a lot, this was a really good run. Pretty happy with it. Before I cut, I want to give a shout out to the Serens Force and our Fire Emblem community. There's been a lot of support, and it's also kind of how I got into a lot of being a fan of Fire Emblem as a whole. And I definitely want to give a shout out to especially Gwimpage, who's been probably my closest pal with respect to Fire Emblem, and he's